involved Harvey E. Barnes' Historical Sociology, 1948, 13. In later years, even the leading evolutionists of the time, such as Huxley and Darwin, became tired of the fact that Spencer could do nothing but theorize and knew so little of real-life facts. The Archaeopteryx, 1861 to 1877. These consisted of several fossils from a single limestone quarry in Germany, each of which the quarry owner sold at high price. One appeared to possibly be a small dinosaur skeleton, complete with wings and feathers. European museums paid high prices for them, as well as we will learn below. In 1985, the Archaeopteryx was shown to be a fake. Ernest Haeckel, in 1834 to 1990, a teacher at the University of Jena in Germany, was the most zealous advocate of Darwinism on the continent in the 19th century. He drew a number of fraudulent charts, first published in 1868, which purported to show that embryos were almost identical to those of other animals. Reputable scientists repudiated them within a few years, for embryologists recognized the deceit. See Chapter 16, Vestiges and Recapitulation, on our website for the charts. Darwin and Haeckel had a strong influence on the rise of world communism. Daniel Geisman, Scientific Origins of National Socialism, Social Darwinism in Ernest Haeckel and the German Monist League, 1971. March Horde Series, 1870. Othniel C. March claimed to have found 30 different kinds of horse fossils. In Wyoming and Nebraska, he reconstructed and arranged them in a small to large evolutionary series, which was never in a straight line. Encyclopedia Britannica, 1976, Volume 7, page 13. Although displayed in museums for a time, the great majority of scientists later repudiated this horse series. Charles Depper, Transformations of the Animal World, page 105. J. A. Kukut, Implications of Evolution, 1960, page 149. Friedrich Nietzsche, 1844-1900. Nietzsche was a remarkable example of a man who fully adopted Darwinian principles. He wrote books declaring that the way to evolve was to have wars and kill the weaker races in order to produce a super race. T. Walter Wollbank, Alston, M. Taylor, Civilization, Past and Present, Volume 2, 1949, page 274. Darwin, in Origin of Species, also said that this needed to happen. The writings of both men were read by German militarists and led to World War I. Hitler valued both Darwin's and Nietzsche's books. When Hitler killed 6 million Jews, he was only doing what Darwin taught. It is of interest that a year before he defended John Scopes' right to teach Darwinianism at the Dayton monkey trial, Clarence Darrow declared in court that the murderous thinking of two young men was by their having learned Nietzsche's vicious Darwinism in the public schools. W. Brigham classified speeches. Asa Gray was the first leading theistic evolutionary advocate in America at the time when Darwin was writing in his books. Gray, a Presbyterian, worked closely with Charles W. Eliot, president of Harvard, in promoting evolution as Christian teaching, yet teaching long ages and the book of Genesis as fable. The Challenger was a British ship dispatched to find evidence on the ocean bottom of evolutionary change. During its 1872 to 1876 voyage, it carried on seafloor dredging but found no fossils developing on the bottom of the ocean. By this time, it was obvious to evolutionists that no fossils were developing on either land or sea, yet they kept quiet about the matter. Over the years, theories, hoaxes, false claims, and ridiculous favoring evolution were spread abroad, but facts refuting it, when found, were kept hidden. Karl Marx, 1818-1883, is closely linked with Darwinianism. That which Darwin did to biology, Marx, with the help of others, did to society. All the worst political philosophies of the 20th century emerged from the dark cave of Darwinianism. Marx was thrilled when he read Origins of Species, and he immediately wrote Darwin and asked to dedicate his own major work, Des Capitales, to him. Darwin, in his reply, thanked him but said it would be best not to do so. In 1866, Karl Marx wrote to Friedrich Engels that Origin of the Species contained the basis in natural history for their political and economic system for an atheist world. Engels, the co-founder of world communism with Marx and Lenin, wrote to Karl Marx in 1856, Darwin, who I am just now reading, is splendid. See Zirkel, Evolution, Marxian Biology, and the Social Scene, 1959, page 85. In 1861, marked to Engels, Darwin's book is very important and serves me as a basis in natural selection for the class struggle in history. At Marx's funeral, Engels said that as Darwin had discovered the law of organic evolution in natural history, so Marx had discovered the law of evolution in human history. Otto Ruth, Karl Marx, 1948, page 366. As Darwin emphasized competitive survival as the key to advancement, so communism focused on the value of labor rather than the laborer. Like Darwin, Karl Marx thought he had discovered the law of development. He saw history in stages as the Darwinians saw geological strata and successive forms of life. William Grant Sumner, 1840-1910, applied evolutionary principles to political economics at Yale University. He taught many of America's future businesses and industrial leaders that strong business succeed and the weak perish. Millionaires in the fittest. Modern laissez-faire capitalism was the result. Gilman M. Ostrander, The Evolutionary Outlook, 1875, 1900, 1971, page 5. William James, 1842-1910, was another evolutionist who influenced American thinking. His view of psychology placed the study of human behavior on an animalistic evolutionary basis. Tidal hypothesis theory. George Darwin, son of Charles Darwin, wanted to come up with something original, so he invented the theory that 4 million years ago the moon was pressed nearly against the earth, which resolved every 5 hours. Then one day a heavy tide occurred in the ocean, which lifted it out of its present location. Later, proponents of George's theory decided that the Pacific Basin is the whole moon left behind when those large ocean waves pushed it out into space. Bumpus Sparrows, 1898. Herman Bumpus was a zoologist in Brown University during the winter of 1898. By accident, he carried out one of the only field experiments in natural selection. One cold morning, finding 136 stunned house sparrows on the ground, he tried to nurse them back to health. Of the total, 72 revived and 64 died. He weighed and carefully measured all of them and found that those closest to the average survived best. This frequently quoted research study is another evidence that the most animal or plant closest to the original species is the most hardy. Subspecies variations will not be as hardy. An evolutionary entirely cross species, if the DNA code would permit it, would therefore be too weakened to survive. R. Milner, Encyclopedia of Evolution, 1990, page 61. Hugo de Veres, 1848-95, was a Dutch botanist and one of the 3 men who in 1900 rediscovered Mendel's paper on the law of heredity. One day while working with Primrose, de Veres thought he had discovered a new species. This made headlines. He actually had found a new variety, subspecies of primrose, but de Veres conjectured that perhaps this new species had suddenly sprung into existence as a mutation. He theorized that new species saltated leaped, that is, continually spring into existence. His idea is called saltation theory. This was a new idea, and during the first half of the 20th century, many evolutionary biologists, finding absolutely no evidence supporting natural selection, switched from natural selection Darwinism to mutation neo-Darwinism as the mechanism by which the theory cross-species change occurred. Later in this book, we will discover that mutations cannot produce evolution either, for they are always harmful. In addition, decades of experimentation have revealed they never produce new species. In order to produce the mutation theory, de Veres and other research immediately began experimentation on fruit flies, and it has continued ever since, but totally without success in producing new species. Ironically, de Veres' salutation theory was based on an observational error. In 1914, Edward Jeffreys discovered that de Veres' primrose was just a new variety, not a new species. Decades later, it was discovered that most plant varieties were produced by variations in gene factors, rarely by mutations. Those caused by gene variations may be strong, although not as strong as the average original, but those varieties produced by mutations are always weak and have a poor survival rate. See Chapter 10, Mutations, for much more on the mutations problem. Walter S. Sutton and T.V. Boveri independently discovered chromosomes and the linkage of genetic characters. This was only 2 years after Mendel's research was rediscovered. Scientists were continually learning new facts about the fixity of species. Thomas Hunt Morgan, 1886 to 1945, was an American biologist who developed the theory of the gene. He found that the genetic determinants were present in definite linear order in the chromosomes and could be somewhat mapped. He was the first to work intensively with the fruit fly. Dosiviler, Michael Pittman, and Adam Evolution in 1984, page 70. But research within the fruit flies and other creatures has proved a total failure in showing mutation to be a mechanism for cross-species change. Richard B. Goldschmidt, Evolution as Viewed by One Geneticist, American Scientist, January 1952, page 94. H.J.